An obnoxious drunk imprisoned by a mysterious enemy. After more than a decade, he's suddenly released. Now he seeks revenge, but uncovering the truth will be painful. All this can only mean one thing. We're comparing Oldboy on this episode of Retro versus Remake.
Painful. Yeah.
I just kind of,
not earth-shattering, just a little painful. It's good.
I tried. It's a little more wordy than we usually go, but I think we needed it. All right. I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick. Welcome to another episode of Retro versus Remake. This is the series where we compare movies and their remakes. Join us as we answer the question, should this remake exist? Today's movies are Oldboy.
Yes. Oldboy, 2003, a Korean film starring Choi Min-sik, Oh Tae-kyung, Yo Ji-tae, Yo Yeon-suk, Kang Hee-jung, Ji Dae-han, Kim Byung-ok, Yoon Jin-so, and Oh Dal-soo. Directed by Park Chan-wook. Screenplay by Park Chan-wook, Jun Hyung Lim, Jo Yun Hwang. Music by Young Wook Jo. I can't believe.
Good luck, man. Better than I could say.
Yeah. Look like Rain Man. Oldboy 2013. Starring Josh Brolin, Elizabeth Olsen, Charlton Copley, Samuel L. Jackson, Michael Imperioli, Christopher, Palm Clementif, L.V. Yost, and James Ransome. Directed by Spike Lee. Screenplay by Mark Protosevich. Music by Roque Banyos. And both films are based on the manga written by Garen Tsuchiya and illustrated by Nobuaki Minegishi. All right.
Good job. Me to do it.
So, Dan, what was your first experience with either of these films?
My first experience with the original film was probably mid-2000s. I think I remember just seeing like on what was that show that Olivia Munn, like Attack of the Show type
yeah, like
one of those G4 shows.
Yeah.
I remember they used to do DVD reviews and like somebody was talking about like this movie Oldboy has like the most messed up ending you'll ever see. So I was like, all right, I'll definitely rent that. So probably rented it from Blockbuster back in the day.
Nice.
And and I saw it, and yes, it was one of the most messed up endings I'd ever seen, and I really appreciated the movie. I thought it was really well done, despite its insane content. And then I did see the remake before this, watching it for this podcast too. I remember when it was coming out, I was like, okay, Josh Brolin, he's coming off of like some good movies at the time, like American Gangster. It was just like, it was Josh Brolin. He was a cool guy, pre-Thanos.
Yeah.
So
solid actor.
Yeah. And Spike Lee directing, so I was like, okay, we got a name behind this, so I'm looking forward to this. So I rented that, I saw it, and well, you'll hear my opinions about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, my first experience with the 2003 film, I was in a college screenwriting class, and the professor was like, all right, we gotta watch it. This movie kicks ass. And it's highlighting some different scenes, like there's a fight scene that we're going to talk about. The ending that you're alluding to, those were all parts of the reason why we watched it. And then because I saw that movie, I was a little skeptical about the 2013 release. I hadn't seen it yet until this podcast.
Oh, wow.
So that was my first time checking it out. Well, that's our experience with the films. We both have opinions that you're going to hear about. But for now, we'll do a synopsis, and this was hard work, so I hope you guys like it.
Obviously, none of the names are the same, so.
Not one name is the same. There's extra people in places and stuff, but whatever. An obnoxious drunk misses his daughter's birthday party while he's out on a bender. After the night out drinking, he interacts with an old friend before a stranger with an umbrella abducts him. He wakes up and finds himself locked in what appears to be a hotel room. His unseen captors provide him with food, but do not explain why he is held captive. While watching television in this prison, the drunkard learns that his wife has been murdered and he is the prime suspect. The man is in prison for years and begins to work out and train to fight. He's pissed off and wants revenge on his captor. He starts to tunnel out of the sealed room, but over a decade after being captured, the man is suddenly and inexplicably released. After being released, he's provided with money and a phone. He encounters a young woman that takes an interest in him, and his mysterious captor calls him on the phone to taunt and mock him. Now even more motivated, the former prisoner seeks out clues to discover who this mysterious stranger is. He gathers enough clues to find out the location of where he was in prison. The man tortures the warden to get more details on why he was locked away. The captor is revealed to be a wealthy man that gives the former prisoner an ultimatum to find out why he was in prison. If he can't discover the truth within a few days, there will be consequences. Through his old friend, the man discovers a stranger went to high school with them and that he wanted revenge for the death of his sister. The former prisoner saw the sister engaged in an incestuous relationship, and he told other students about this. Shame from the gossip resulted in the sister's death. The stranger personally blamed the man and wanted him to suffer. Although the man finds the truth, he discovers that the prison plot was more twisted than he could imagine. The woman he met while hunting for his captor was actually his long-lost daughter. The captor plotted to trick the man and his daughter into having an incestuous relationship. This elaborate plan is meant to break the man's psyche so that he felt pain like his captor did all those years ago. Now the man knows the dark truth, and both movies end their respective ways.
That was pretty solid.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, I was able to follow that.
I worked real hard on that. Yeah, I mean, synopsis-wise, I think we have it there, but these are two... For films that are basically the same story, they're different. They're like, there's a lot of different things happening in these films. So, to even get started there, we'll just start with our cast of characters and our main protagonist.
Yeah, we'll call him the Oldboy.
The Oldboy. In the 2003 film, it's Choi Min-sik as Odesu. And in 2013, we've got Josh Brolin as Joe Doucette.
Hello? Hello?
I think the best place to start the comparison between the two of them is before he's captured.
Yes.
The main character. So I'll start with Odesu. So you're introduced to this random old dude who's at a police station. He's obviously been in an altercation because he's got like bandages and blood coming out of his nose, and he's clearly drunk, inebriated. He's just being like, he's being like annoying to everybody. Okay, this is what he's like. He's like that drunk at the bar who thinks they're being nice, but they're really just annoying everybody. That's kind of what he is. Like, he's trying to like talk to people, but he's getting in people's space, and nobody wants to talk to him. And then he's being obnoxious. He's trying to constantly pee in the corner.
Yeah,
he's just like this little ball of mischief,
right?
Pretty much, you know. I'm sure he's usually a nice guy. He even talks about his daughter, how he's really excited because he got her a gift. But you know, he just got a little drunk for some reason.
Yeah.
We don't know why, but sometimes people get drunk. And then sometimes they get taken to the police station, and he's not arrested, but he's just kind of like detained.
Yeah, they kind of put him in the drunk tank.
Yeah, kind of like a drunk tank. And then his friend comes, he apologizes for him, and he's like, all right, this is my friend, usually a good guy, but he just happened to be a little drunk tonight.
Right.
So that's kind of our introduction to Dae-soo. A little drunk, a little pathetic, annoying, but I didn't get like this whole terrible person vibe.
Right. Yeah, I think that's one of the major differences here is I'm on the same page as you. Like, when I watched it, I was like, okay, everyone's had their like drunk moment where you're being kind of annoying. You're not really a bad guy, but you're in this moment, you're being an asshole. So
he's not doing anything to purposely antagonize anybody.
No.
Or that he thinks would like get anybody pissed at him.
Yeah, I think that in a lot of ways that works because we do, you know, over time you watch the film, you know what happens to him. But I think it's kind of better that there's not a real reason why this guy should be in prison.
Right. Exactly.
Like, he's like, okay, can he be a jerk sometimes? Is he, we find out he's kind of a womanizer, you know what I mean? He, like, flirts with married women from time to time. But he's just like he's kind of a normal guy. He's just sometimes he gets drunk and he's an asshole. In 2013 with Josh Brolin, Joe Doucette, we spent a lot more time with him, right? In 2003, Odesu is just he's hammered. It's a one moment in his life. Doesn't really reflect on necessarily, like you're mentioning, who he is as a person. We find out who Joe Doucette is as a person, and it's not a pretty picture.
It's not a good person, no, for sure.
No.
Also drunk. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times he's starting like leaving a meeting or some type of lunch or something with clients, and he's drinking, and we see him like pour more alcohol into his sippy cup, and then he has more work to do, and then his boss is like, just being a boss, and he's kind of like, not really an asshole to his boss because he can't be, but like when his back is turned, he's like, I'm a fucking boss, and like blah blah blah. It's like, hey, whatever. But then we got a call from ex-wife.
Yeah, it's his ex-wife. Unfortunately, I don't know the actress.
I don't know her name.
Doesn't matter.
But in the movie, it's Donna, and immediately this guy her and him just get into a shouting match, and her being mad at him is justified because she's been trying to get him to respond just for weeks.
Right.
Is he going to come to his daughter's birthday? Not wedding. Are you going to come to your daughter's birthday? I've been trying to get hold of you for 3 weeks. And then, like, his reaction is just like, I can't fucking do it. Go fucking work. Fuck you. He's just like, just pissed at her.
Yeah.
He's obviously drunk, so maybe that's why he's been. But he's genuinely like an asshole.
Yeah.
The whole time.
Asshole behavior throughout it, right? Like I said, the heavy drinking. He's very contentious with his ex-wife. So, it's believable that this guy could do harm to his ex-wife. We'll get to that portion. He, with the boss, right? They're like, hey, you got this meeting with a big client, and it's that one guy from the commercials. Hold up.
Is it?
I don't know. Hold up. I'm gonna need my thingy here because, as you know, I'm terrible with names. I mean, we have the interaction with the boss, who's like, you've got this major client. Joe Doucette works in advertising, right? Right. He's
not Don Draper though.
He's definitely not Don Draper, and he's got a scene with a character who's actually in The Wire. He plays Lieutenant Cedric Daniels.
We always love alums from The Wire.
always. But
it's not Omar this time.
No, it's not Omar. But Lance Reddick, who's really good actor.
Yeah. Great, and It's Always Sunny too. I just gotta throw it. Anybody who's been in It's Always Sunny, I'll throw it out there too.
Yeah. But he's got that voice that he talks with. Yeah. And the meeting goes well. He's like, hey, fucking, you sell cars? I got the cars, and we're gonna do this. The minute Lance Reddick leaves the table, Brolin's Joe Doucette's just like talking to, because Lance Reddick shows up with his wife or whatever, and he's like, hey, why don't you lose the old man and come fucking hang out with me, bro? And of course it goes back. I like that Lance Reddick slaps him too.
Yeah, I'm really happy he slapped him.
But like this is what we're talking about. This is a slappable man. Josh Brolin's character, like, you're gonna miss your kid's birthday, with months of preparation going into it, to basically blow this big deal, because you just can't keep it in your pants for an hour. Like, it's crazy. And then after that, you're just roaming through the streets, hammered.
Yeah.
And just like being a dick.
Yeah, he just passes out in his own puke.
Yeah.
And then just like wanders the streets. He does buy a gift for his daughter, which is weird because he didn't give a fuck about her earlier. And all of a sudden he's just like, hey, I'm buying a gift for my daughter. I was worried for the girl who was selling him the gift.
Right.
I was like, well, we've seen how he acts around women.
Right.
So, how is he going to act around her? So thankfully nothing happened there. But he doesn't really have any redeeming qualities.
No,
I guess is what we're trying to
that's what we're getting at, right? Yeah. There's nothing redeeming about him. What's kind of somewhat cool, I don't want to give it too much credit, but the woman that sells him the gift is wearing like the angel wings that are the gift from the original film. So I was like, ooh, reference. Yeah. But no redeeming qualities for Joe Doucette. So I think that's a major change, right? Like when you look at Odesu, it takes some time to figure out why he's a bad guy. Even when they break down what's bad about him, maybe it's a cultural thing that like we're not seeing him as bad, but it's not that big of a deal.
No, I think we don't really see why he's in prison, because even after he is released from the police station, he is on the phone with his daughter. Mm-hmm. So we have two different ends of the spectrum here. We have the guy who doesn't give a fuck about his family, telling his ex-wife to go fuck himself, as opposed to the guy who is still married, talking to his wife, and talks to his daughter, and is like, I can't wait to see you, I got a gift for you, Daddy's gonna be home soon, you talk to my friend now, because I'm gonna get ready to go home. So, you can sympathize with that guy. Right. Because, okay, like you said, we've had drunk times, we can relate to that, but, Josh Brolin's Doucette, it's just you're just a piece of shit, man. Yeah. I got nothing. I could see why somebody might want to lock you up.
Yeah, that's the thing. We can see why someone wants to lock you up. Kind of because the friend becomes more important throughout, but because he's in the early scenes, we'll just kind of bring in the friend, because I do want to note a difference there. Mm-hmm. In the original film, it's Ji Dae-han who plays No Ju Hwan in the movie. He's Dae-soo's friend, and he owns an internet cafe. In the remake, it's Michael Imperioli, who's Christopher Moltisanti from The Sopranos, who plays Chucky, who owns a bar called Chucky.
Do I know you? It's Joe.
Again, another difference here. We'll talk more about the friend, but Dae-soo gets bailed out by Hwan in the original film, and he's like, "Hey, look, Dae-soo's not a bad guy. He's just having a bad day, right?" Like you mentioned, he's calling the wife and stuff like that. Chucky, Christopher, it's like, dude, go away. Why are you bothering her right now? So even that interaction so early on is so different. You've got a friend that's clearly good enough friends with you that he's going to come at the ungodly hour of night to bail you out. And, when he goes missing, I think there's a bigger impact there, because the friend's like, well, where's Dae-soo? And it makes sense that even years later that he's like, oh my God, I'm glad to see you. Right. Again, going back, really the main point of all this is that Joe Doucette is such a dick that even his friends don't want to see him. Right. And it really does change the flavor of the film so early in those opening moments.
Yeah, your perception of the main character, Dae-soo, that was a good point that you brought up the friend, because Jun Hwan's defense of Dae-soo, because you're not necessarily not on his side, but it's okay, who's this drunk guy? Who's he really? But you got his sober friend coming in being he's not a bad guy. Mm-hmm. So you're able to, see that, okay, maybe this can be a good guy, and then he is on the phone with his daughter, like I said. And then you got Chucky, who's no, go away, Tony. I mean, go away, Joe. Tony. Come back when you're sober over there. Sorry, I love doing my Moltisanti impressions.
Ubiquitous. Alright, sorry, we're gonna we'll try to keep that to a minute.
We'll have HBO shows. Yes. The Wire and Sopranos. We're gonna talk about you.
Oh man.
But yeah, so by having Chucky just turn him away instead of being oh, you're my good friend, come in, let's sober you up so you can get home to your kid. He doesn't do that for him. No. Because why? Because he's probably a piece of shit. Right. And why should I, put myself out there to help you sober up for your kid if you're such a piece of shit?
Yeah. And I think that because ultimately this is it's a story about revenge. It's a story about consequences for your actions. When you have a character where it's ambiguous why he should face such an extreme punishment, that's why when I said protagonist, I was like, is it right? When you have someone who reasonably probably shouldn't be tortured for decades, right? Versus someone that maybe, maybe. Again, whenever you're doing a film, the audience has to get behind your main character, and this early intro into Joe Doucette, it makes it really hard to be on. We've said it about a lot of characters in the past, but it's hard to be on the Doucette train. I don't want to back this guy because there's nothing, like you mentioned, redeemable about him, and that's just small. I mean, it's not a small difference, major difference, and it, when you're trying to get into the plot, I think it's just it's a strange way to start. I think they probably should have dialed back on how hateable this character could be.
Yeah, I think and to add on to that problem is we never really get a moment to sort of turn our perception of like who this character is. He does have a drinking problem, which he eventually gives up.
Right.
So that's commendable, but is that necessarily a reason to root for a character because they decide they're going to give up drinking for their daughter? Like, I think that's supposed to be the turn.
I think
in the remake, but I don't know. It's not. It's just not done that well.
No.
Where I'm able to like get on board at that point. It's still like I don't really like you. You were a piece of shit. I felt bad about your mice, but like
that was pretty rough.
That was really fucked up.
We'll talk about that.
But like there never really is a solid moment in the remake. I think where you're able to get on his side because he was such a piece of shit in the beginning.
Right.
I don't think he ever really makes up for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, minor point, but like calling the daughter in the phone booth is a difference, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't interact with his ex-wife. He doesn't interact with his daughter. This idea that like, I'm going to change for you, daughter, who we've never seen, who we don't know anything about. She's 3. Like, okay. After years of being imprisoned, you stop drinking, right? Like, honestly, because there is this kind of like plot twisty conspiracy type of thing happening to him, it's like, is that part of the plan? Because like you start to think about things like that. It was part of the plan to sober this guy up because like they kept feeding him booze in prison, so it's like, which is a change. Again, like changes have to have a point, and I think that stopping drinking doesn't feel like the big win that I think they're trying to make it look like in the film. So like you're locked away in a hotel prison for in this case 20 years. In the original film it's 15 years, which actually to me makes a little bit more sense. Well, maybe not. It's dark either way. Like
I don't know if the extra 5 years really makes that much of a difference. I mean, obviously it'll affect your psyche more to be locked away longer, but like, we obviously know the ending. Obviously his daughter's gonna be 18 versus I guess 23. Does it really make that much of a difference? I mean, obviously it's better if she's older.
That's fair.
So it's really awkward, but like in terms of serving the plot and what the main villain wants to happen, I don't know if the extra 5 years is that important. I guess. Yeah,
I just I don't know. So let's just to kind of reset here.
And actually, because of the different ending, it actually makes less sense. Because 20 years now she's an adult, but I'm getting way ahead here. Because the main villain, everybody's having an incestuous relationship with the dad. I'm sure that was been going on their whole lives while they were teenagers. So you think he would let him out earlier? So he could have exactly the same way.
I think they just wanted to be less gross for an American audience, and whenever we talk about foreign films, I always think we sort of coddle the American audience. Like one of the things that happens early in the film, it was really jarring for me. It's not a big deal, but like he's like 3, my daughter's 3, and I'm like, what? All right, bro. Like she's 3. Like he just focuses on that so much. But ultimately, what we're getting at is that Joe Doucette is completely unlikable and in a lot of ways irredeemable. Oday Sue,
a little more ambiguous.
Maybe he's deserves this fate, but it's not apparent that he does. And like, I found it interesting in the original film when Oday Sue starts writing off possible enemies, because like to me that felt better because it's like mild-mannered guys, like who could not like me. And it's cool that he comes up with a pretty strong list. And I think if you spent 15 or 20 years in a prison, that you'd come up with a lot of names trying to figure out what would happen. Trying to figure out why you're here. Josh Brolin, I mean, like, it's very obvious that he has numerous enemies.
It's just more relatable if it's more of an everyday man as opposed to somebody who's clearly an asshole. You're like, okay, that guy can definitely have enemies. I'm not surprised. But like, if it's an everyday man, you could put yourself in his shoes and be like, wow, that could happen to me. Like, I don't know who I've offended. Right. Just like O'Day Sue, trying to figure out like, who have I really fucked over?
Right.
So that just plays better to anybody who's just watching who can relate to that.
Like, most people don't identify as assholes.
Right.
Even if they are, like,
even assholes think, yeah, I'm an alright guy.
Yeah. So it's like, you're right. So being a normal guy, because this is such an extraordinary situation, you're like, holy shit, like, who could not like me? And I don't know, that mystery works better, like you're mentioning, than someone who's an obvious villain, right? Like, you're obviously a bad guy. Hundreds of people could be on that list, and you know what? Hundreds of reasons why you deserve that, versus a guy who, like, I mean, I don't know, maybe you cut some guy off in traffic. Like, I don't know what he did. I don't know what he did.
Yeah, it could be as simple as that. Who hasn't a lot of money and you just cut him off in traffic. That's I guess, kind of part of the fun, for lack of a better term, of the original movie, trying to figure out what this guy did. Right. As opposed to Josh Brolin, well, maybe he tried to sleep with some guy's wife, which we clearly have seen him.
Right. Because even when they say that, like, O'Day Sue's a womanizer, because, again, why I brought up the friend's downplaying that. He's like, yeah, you may have slept with somebody's wife or two, but, like, he's still kind of team O'Day Sue. He's like, yeah, but you're not a bad guy.
It's also could be just guy talk. Yeah. Like, maybe O'Day Sue is just talking himself up, or maybe his friend's just talking him up at the same time. Like, we don't see it, so, like, you don't know how much truth there is there. But we have seen Josh Brolin's character. Right.
No, it's 100%. Kind of moving into sort of the next phase of the film, because, like, that, as much as we're breaking this down, it's really like the first few minutes of both films. Even less so in 2003, which I liked. I liked that we just, all right, he's drunk, he's pissing the police off, you're a dickhead, or like whatever, like, as annoying as it is, it's actually fun.
It is funny. It's fun. He tells the cops to go fuck themselves before he leaves.
And like, and he runs out like he's gonna get arrested again.
Because of how pathetic he is. That's what makes it funny. Yeah. Because he's not imposing.
Right.
He's not threatening at all. He's this old fucking flabby dude, and he's
rolling on the ground, trying to piss in the corner. They like have to chain him to a wall. He's like, oh.
He's down to his underwear at a certain point. He's as pathetic as you can be when you're drunk.
Yes.
Which makes him funny and somewhat endearing while you're watching it, because he's not like threatening at all.
Right.
He's not really an asshole. Well, he's a bit of an asshole, but like he doesn't really know because he's drunk. So it's sort of, you're able to kind of like forgive that.
Right. And again, this is a small, subtle point, but in that film, when he's locked up, he's got no clue what's going on. Right. Josh Brolin assumes that he's banging some woman, and like there's a shower running. He's like, oh, I'm gonna piss in your toilet, and it's like, oh, you thought you slept with someone, even though you were like blackout drunk. And like, again, just that little flavoring, character difference, it made it harder to get behind that guy. O'Day Sue being pathetic, like you're saying, easier to get behind that guy, easier to relate to that guy, easier. And when you say relate, you got to also use the word sympathize. Right. I sympathize with O'Day Sue. Josh Brolin, I sympathize. Like, no one should be in prison against their will unjustly for that long, but also, I don't know. Like, it's very plausible that guy deserves to be here.
Right.
And I think that's the major difference there. What I found interesting is that the prison itself between the two films is more or less the same. Like, they kind of pretty consistent with that. The painting on the wall is like different, but like everything else is pretty similar. I think because I don't know enough about like Korea, as they were playing like showing the passage of time, I was like, I don't know what's going on here. Versus like the American film, they're like 9/11, George Bush.
Well, they still showed 9/11 in both films.
Oh yeah. All right, that's true.
You saw Barack Obama's second inauguration in Oldboy.
Thanks. Well, I'm just bad at remembering things. But I don't know, like when they begin training, right, in the films, like you mentioned before, the remake is more centered around him, like, just so many shots of him pouring alcohol down, like, sinks and toilets and stuff like that. Like, they really honed in on that, the alcohol portion of this. Really doesn't matter, right? Like, you know, like, at the end of the day, you're both kind of training your body. I found that the mice scene that she talked about it's hard to say, it did start to make me feel sympathy for Josh Brolin, because that was fucked up.
That was messed up.
That was fucked up. But I don't know, like, that whole portion in the middle is pretty much the same though. Like,
well, I'll give you a major difference between the two films. Is we get more voiceover in the original than we do in the remake. The only time we really get voiceover in the remake is when he's making those letters to his daughter.
Yeah.
And that's the only time we get his internal thoughts. Otherwise, in the original film, like, Ode Sue, just like the whole process of, like, what is it like to be locked up here, and when he's experiencing random things, and like how he's dealing with his current situation. So we're able to get in our main protagonists, you know, just in his head, and just figure out, like, and again, learn more about who he is, and like, like, why are you locked up?
Right.
We're trying to get there with you, buddy. And we don't get any of that from Doucette. So again, less relatable. And, you know, I know voiceovers are usually like big movie sin, but
it actually worked really well in this film
because he's locked up. So it's like he's either going to talk out loud or you got voiceovers. It's the only way to really understand what the character's going through.
It made me feel, again, talking about relatable, it made me feel like the person being locked up. You're like, okay. Like, there's one line where he's like, if you see a woman with a violet umbrella, or no, if you see a stranger with a violet umbrella walking down the street, you know, basically avoid. Like, it's like, yeah, that's great advice, man. The voiceover works really well. I think some of the psychological things that happen in the film are better. There's the
ants.
The ants, yes, which two characters in the film see ants in certain parts of their like life, but like seeing the ants, seeing this kind of psychological breakdown with the voiceovers was really it was a compelling part of the film. It really did make it feel like that claustrophobic, locked in feeling. And yeah, Brolin, you don't quite get that. Like, they kind of replace that with this really strange scene where he starts collecting, like, there's a mouse that gets into the room, and the mouse has babies, and then they, like, feed him the mice.
Yeah, they find out about it, and then after the mouse does have babies, they end up cooking it, and it's like, it's a really fucked up scene, which it's like, yeah, that sucks, man, because, like, that's all he's got going for him. Right? He, like, made a friend, a living friend. Not an imaginary one, like his pillow that he eventually makes, like his Wilson. Yeah, the Wilson. But like, he has this mouse, and then she's pregnant, and she gives birth to all these tiny mice, and they're still like, they don't even have fur yet, and then they get cooked. So like, I'll give that to the remake. That was really fucked up, and I felt bad for his character. Yeah, definitely at that point, but still, like, not a redeemable thing.
Right. It's like them being monsters doesn't make him less monstrous. Right. It does help with his turn, though. I will say that was a clean way to get into him starting to train and stuff like that. So there's that. But I don't know. I think that, like you mentioned with the voiceover, to me it felt more defined as things progressed in the prison cell in the original film. Whether it was his own mental psyche, whether it was why he started training and stuff like that. Having insight into what was going on in his head was important. Again, with the prison, another major difference is in both films, there's a reference pretty early on in their prison stint where they find out that their family's been murdered. The captors take evidence from both of them to frame them for this. It's kind of a one shot in the original. Like, this happened, your family's dead, deal with it. The remake kind of like plays out throughout the film. It's like a television series, like a mysterious mysteries kind of true crime thing, where they kind of keep revisiting his daughter, like in the film, and I don't know, like as we talk about the villain, I guess we'll get into that more. But like, I just I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I liked this playing it out so much.
It seemed weird at the time when they kept showing it, especially because it's like, now it's the 10th anniversary,
right?
Now it's the 20th anniversary.
Like,
so like it definitely
give a shit for that long.
Exactly. It's a TV show, but it makes sense when they go into the ending.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it comes together.
There's like a payoff there.
Another alumnus of Sopranos too was the host of that show.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he was in Sopranos as well. He worked with Moltisanti a lot. Yeah. Anyways, but like, yeah, I thought it was weird to keep bringing it back to that. Like every time you turn on the TV, it's like this one program was like dedicated to like his murder specifically. So that was weird, but I think they do explain it in the ending well enough where I was able to like, oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, no, like and it does fit with the again this more conspiratorial aspect of this. Like he's really being messed with in that way psychologically, versus the original film has hypnotism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I guess we're kind of substituting a character being hypnotized with a character that's being kind of like
led down a certain path.
It's like programmed.
Yeah. Like gaslighting.
Yeah, for sure. But, long story short, like there are some differences like that in the prison sequence. Ultimately, we come to the same conclusion, right? Like both of them started like training their bodies, becoming revenge oriented. Yeah. Both characters are tunneling out. Again, like you mentioned, voiceover. I knew what his plan was when he was tunneling out in the original, right? He's like, all right, brick by brick, it's going to take me this many years. 1 month. I'm 1 month away from getting out of here. We don't really get that with Brolin. Like, we don't really know when he's going to bust out. He just kind of does.
Kind of on the very end, he was writing to his daughter, like, tomorrow's the day, or, like, one more day. Like, once he removes a bunch of the bricks.
Yeah. And he even, like, slight difference, he even, like, does get out for
He does. And this is another small difference in the two movies. Like, when Dae-Soo finally gets to the, like, exterior of the building, it's raining. And then just, like, his excitement of, like, oh my God.
It's a really good shot.
This is amazing. Like, I'm touching rain for the first time in 15 years. That's insane.
Yeah.
And then, like, Josh Brolin, like, kicks open the duct, and he's able to actually, like, see outside, and we don't see his reaction.
No, he's just like...
There's just cuts.
Yeah.
And you think that it's, like, a major moment. Like, we see his reaction when he's released.
Right.
But for some reason, it's completely ignored when he breaks out. And he could just get out. Like, right. We're never explained, like, why he doesn't actually escape at that point.
That is confusing, because, like, in the original film, he touches the rain, he's like, well, I've done all this work, and he quite literally is like, I don't know, I could be on the 53rd floor of this building.
Right.
But either way, right? Because
I'm out.
Yeah,
I'll kill myself.
Whether I jump from 50 stories or I can just, like, leave. Either way, I'm out of here. Josh Brolin, you're right. Like, he's out, then the gas starts coming, and, because we know that this gas in the prison makes both these characters fall asleep. It's like, wouldn't you like, leave? Like, you got your bag,
I feel like there was this weird thing, like he was about to leave, and then he got distracted by seeing something about his daughter on TV, and then that's the reason he stayed, and then the gas came during that, and it was like a really kind of lame reason to not leave.
It's a little flimsy. I think the problem is you would need the same setup, right? Where he's burrowed out, but like, one hand's out, right? Like if he wasn't physically out of the prison, I don't think I'd be making a big deal about this. But he's physically out.
Right, he could totally just escape at that point.
What are you doing? Doesn't matter. Both characters end up in a was it a chest or luggage outdoors. And like the real journey begins. So I don't think that we need to like break down sequentially what happened, but like that to me, really the major hits here on these characters are Josh Brolin's character seems less redeemable. There's voiceover in the original film that, again, voiceover can be tricky, but I think they do it really well here. That gives you more insight into Odesu. He's really reacting like a caged animal, really. When he, like you said, with the rain and stuff like that, like Odesu feels like someone that has been in prison for 15 years. Josh Brolin's character, I don't know, like little moments like that where you're out but you're not. Like that doesn't read to me as someone trying to escape as much. And I just think that overall, when it comes to framing these characters, the original Oldboy does a much better job with making his protagonist relatable, making the protagonist feel like someone that has gone through this terrible ordeal and who's really reacting to it. I mean, he does really strange things that we haven't even began talking about yet, like the octopus scene we were talking about. Like, the Odesu character is just a more believable, more relatable protagonist, and in that sense, I found him to be just better.
Yeah, he's more relatable. He's more of the everyday man, as opposed to Josh Brolin, who's, like you said, the asshole. And when we get to the action scenes, I think Daesu's everyday man's going to play up those action scenes because of what we've seen of him. But we'll get to that when we get to those action scenes, won't we?
Yeah.
Let's go into those other characters. I think we talked about we went for a long ride here.
My bad. We got deep. But I think when you're talking about a film that's like truly centered around one character, ultimately, I'm glad that we were able to just kind of work that out. Once this character gets out, he meets kind of a love interest, right? Like
let's just say love interest daughter. I don't know what you want to say. We'll say love interest because that's how the main character is perceiving her as.
Yeah. So in the 2003 film, we have Kang Hee-jung, who plays Mido. And in the remake, we have Elizabeth Olsen, who plays Marie Sebastian.
No, you're far from all right.
What are you doing here?
I apologize for reading your letters.
So, right out the gate, something that we want to talk about, because both these characters, we find out by the end, are Odesu's daughter. We find out by the end of both these films that this character is the protagonist, Oldboy, whatever you want to call him. That's his daughter. In the 2003 film, she's a sushi chef that he had heard of through television.
Right.
In the remake, she's some random woman he runs into at some like mobile free clinic.
He's sort of led there in a way because he sees this umbrella, which is weird because like it had the same tattoos. Like both films, the main protagonist is tattooing how many years he's been locked up, and it has like the 20 marks on the umbrella, so he notices that immediately. But it had the 20 marks before he was even locked up too, which seems like you didn't need to have that early, but whatever. It's all right. So he's chasing that umbrella, and he's trying to find this woman. It leads to an actual fight scene, which we'll get to when we get to the action. But then he like doesn't find the woman. He finds like just some random, I guess, homeless guy. We'll just say.
Right.
And then like that's where Elizabeth Olsen's Marie just happens to be working. So he was kind of led there.
Yeah.
In the same way that Odesu was kind of led there due to watching it on TV and maybe hypnosis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the hypnosis is a heavier factor in the original film. In fact,
it's not a factor at all in the remake.
Yeah, it's a great point. It is a non-factor in the remake. What's interesting about the Mido kind of meet-up scene is we find out later that she's also hypnotized. Mm-hmm. So when they first react, it's kind of like a Manchurian Candidate situation. There's like a key phrase that's said that makes both of them react a certain way because the way we engineer this relationship, that's a word that's coming to me here. In the original is based a lot off of this hypnosis kind of factor. In the remake, it's just kind of like more, almost like socially engineered. Like he's being led, like you mentioned with the umbrella and stuff like that. And I don't know. In terms of the characters themselves, they give Elizabeth Olsen, instead of being hypnotized, they give her kind of like a dark past, sort of like she's a former addict, and they kind of imply that that's the reason that she's sort of drawn to him, I guess.
Yeah, that's that is one reason. I didn't actually put too much thought into like her reasons of like why she would be attracted to an older man. Now that you said it out loud, it's not it's that strong.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? That because based off of what she does for work, in her head, like he's like a homeless guy. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm sure a bunch of them could be addicts too. So it's like, why doesn't she fall for any of them?
Right. Like the guy who has the umbrella, like the captors give this random homeless guy the umbrella. It's kind of reminiscent of a scene where Odesu gets his phone and money or whatever from a homeless man.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like, why, right?
Yeah, the motivation makes a lot less sense because, like, hypnosis, as much of a trope as that can be, it at least, like, makes sense, like, why these two characters got together, why she would invite a stranger to her home.
Yeah.
And then, just by having him in her home makes the connection between the two of those characters stronger.
Yes.
As opposed to, like, Chucky, who finds the phone number that's randomly in his hand.
Right.
And, like, he is kind of the reason that the two of them, like, reconnect after they initially meet.
Right.
So it's like, if Chucky never called, would they have gotten together?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, that's the thing, right? Like, and when you're talking about a movie where it's supposed to be like this master plan, like,
exactly,
was the plan for him to pass out and Chucky to find, like,
right.
Like, I don't
like, if Chucky hadn't called her, would she be pursuing him for some reason? It's a if it's not for fucking Christopher, I don't know if this movie even happens.
Right. And like, I could see with Mito what the appeal is, because he's actually he's a strange bird, as we like to say. He's a weird guy, but when they first interact, he shows up. He's pretty knowledgeable. He's like, "Oh, you're that famous woman chef."
Right.
And they're having like a conversation about her career. And he's like, Women usually aren't sushi chefs because their hands are warmer. I don't know if that's true. That's what he said.
My wife hated that. This is bullshit. Who made up that fucking bullshit size? I was like, I didn't write it. Don't get mad at me.
It's the patriarchy. Yeah, but like their first interaction, even as strange as it is, even when he eats a live octopus, I think the hypnosis adds to that factor, but even before the hypnosis, I felt that interaction was, like, weirdly enough, going well, and to a certain extent, and really, like, the turn happens when he passes out, and she instinctively, or like, I don't know, she takes him back to, like, take care of him. Right. Making Elizabeth Olsen quite literally, like, a nurse, a doctor, whatever. I don't know, because you're right, they meet. Get the fuck out of my face. Like Josh Brolin's like, don't touch my stuff. And then Chucky has to be the one to call. You're right, like, the original film just runs with this relationship. And it is just as odd that she's like, well, I'm not going to go to work today because I'm going to, like, help this random person find stuff. But like you mentioned, the trope of hypnosis allows me to suspend disbelief and to just run with this situation. First Elizabeth Olsen thing was like, what are you doing?
I think also just going back into the amount of time he was locked up, having someone who's 18 versus someone who's like 23, you could see like an 18-year-old being a little bit more susceptible, or just like falling for that, or just being naive and to bring someone like that to your home as opposed to somebody who's 23. And not only is she older, but like, you know, he says like outright, like this other doctor who's a new character in the remake, like he has romantic feelings for you and you have the same for him. So like she has pursuers,
right?
So why is she lashing onto this older man who she just met?
Right. So that doctor you're talking about, he's played by James Ransone. It's Dr. Tom Melby in the film. I found that to be messy. I think that, again, maybe because of a more American audience, I think that towards the end when everything happens, they want us to be able to say, hey, there's an option for Elizabeth Olsen's character. Like, you don't have to be obsessed with this older gentleman that happens to be your dad. I don't know, like, but he doesn't do much.
I didn't understand his inclusion at all. Like, he only seems like an obstacle to Josh Brolin's character, if anything.
It's like, all right, you've got a doctor, a nice guy who is aware of her addictions. It was like, hey, look, I'm worried about you.
Right.
I want you slipping. And she's like, oh, you think I'm using? It was like, oh, I mean, you're hanging out with random dudes that beat people up in the streets, you know, and who have been locked up for 20 years. So yeah, maybe, you know. He does seem like an obstacle, and he's not included in the film enough to be included in the film.
I don't understand his inclusion, and I'll actually by including him, like, it makes it seem like she has more of a life outside of dealing with Joe and with whatever he's going through. So, like, it makes less sense for her to kind of just stop everything that's going on in her life to help this guy, as opposed to Mito, who we don't see her interact with anybody. Like, maybe she's just alone and she's lonely, and it makes a little more sense for her to kind of just like, all right, I'm going to help this guy because he seemed like he was in need, and you know, somebody who has nothing to latch on to somebody as opposed to somebody who seems to have stuff going on in their life.
Right.
It's a little less plausible because of that doctor. It's
less plausible, and like, you know, I'm not asking a lot of questions about Mito taking so much time to hang out with this guy, right? Like, she let him stay at the house, so, you know, it's not like that much of an intrusion. It doesn't seem to be affecting her job. When he introduces Doctor, he's like, oh, what the hell are you doing? You know, like you mentioned, it's just, it stops the flow of the storyline by adding this person that's ultimately irrelevant.
Like, maybe if he was hired by the main villain,
that'd be something, you know, if he was in on it.
Yeah.
You know?
So, like, why not? Like, so many people are in on it, like, at a certain point. Like, why not just have him in on it? But, like, he doesn't really do anything, so his inclusion, like, really is unnecessary, ultimately.
Yeah. And, I mean, from and the way you're describing it, like, from a chemistry standpoint, too, Mito, it makes more sense that she has this interest in him. It just feels like a more natural interaction. Having this doctor thing makes the Elizabeth Olsen interaction feel less like the chemistry's not there because someone's actually pointing out, what are you doing? So now that question's in your head too. I don't know, like, and even the way Josh Brolin is with her in the initial meet, he's just like, stay away from my stuff, leave me alone. And like you mentioned, Chucky has to reconnect that thread. It's like, why even cut that thread in the first place? Like, just have it stay the same. But I don't know. It was there were some strange choices in the way they tried to string that relationship together, and I just think the original was much cleaner with this interaction.
But I do have issues with Mito's character, or just like, I guess maybe her relationship with Dae-soo. Like,
sure,
obviously Dae-soo hadn't really seen a woman in a long time. So he does get a little rapey at one point.
Almost immediately.
Yes.
At one point.
As soon as he wakes up, he just like, she's like, don't come in the bathroom because I have a knife. He's like, okay. And he just comes in the bathroom and tries to like force himself on her, and she rightfully just like beats him and tries to defend herself.
Yeah.
And then like he does kind of have a moment. He's like, I'm sorry, I did an unforgivable sin. I will leave.
Right.
And then she's like, oh. And then she's like, oh, it's my fault.
Yeah.
For inviting you into my place.
That's pretty bad.
That's really bad. And then she goes on to say, like, you know, maybe one day we could, but like, you know, I'm not ready now, but maybe one day I'll be ready. Like, implying that she's a virgin, but like, even that, it's like, hey, this guy tried to rape you, and you're still like saying,
right.
Well, we'll have sex one day. So like, obviously that
is problematic.
Is really bad in the original film, but like, there's problems in the remake too. He doesn't sexually assault her, thank God, because like, if you pick between the two protagonists, which one's going to be like more of that? It's definitely Josh Brolin's character, but he doesn't do that. But when he wakes up, she's reading all his letters. And we actually get voiceovers from Marie. Oddly enough, I don't think we needed those. You just need to like a quick montage of her reading the letters. Anyway, he catches her reading letters, and he's like, "Fuck you! What are you doing? Get the fuck out of here! I can't trust you. I'm gonna get away from you. I don't need you."
Right.
Next scene, she's fucking with him. Just on the there was like no explanations. Like, you just told her you don't need her, you don't want her around. Next scene, you guys are going like on this adventure together, trying to find your daughter.
That's a mess. And then like in that scene, Joe's like got a grip over. He's like, Joe, and like let go of me. You know, it's a pretty somewhat violent scene there. You're right. There are issues with the interactions in both films. Raping is like there's that one scene with Odesu in the elevator. I don't quite know what that was when he's in the elevator with that woman.
Right. So you can interpret that a couple of ways. You can interpret that as like he just hasn't seen a woman forever, so he's just like terrified of like a woman or like what he'll do.
Right.
Or like, did he actually like orgasm just like being in an elevator or just being around a woman for the first time? It's left ambiguous, which is better.
No.
There's a lot of ambiguity played throughout the original film, which I think plays better all around. But like, he was really weird and creepy, so you can interpret that a number of ways for sure.
He's creepy several times through the film.
But again, just playing into, is it a cultural thing? Is it,
it could be. Could be. Like, maybe I don't quite understand what that is, you know? Kind of going forward with the Olsen character, you're right. Like, the fact that Joe Doucette and her go off on this adventure, it doesn't make sense.
No, it was never explained why she just decided to start following him.
No.
Like, you take a guy into your place, and then, you just want to make sure, like, he's able to, move on and just get going. And so it makes sense, like, maybe why you'd want to, like, help him out, because you've already taken him into your place.
Right.
But when Marie sees him, she's called to Chucky's. So pretty much she could just be done as soon as he's all like taken care of. Like, okay, he's dehydrated, I'm out of here. Right. But she just sticks around. I guess hypnosis makes sense in the original, of like, it doesn't make sense.
Right. I guess because she believes his letters, but like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's a strong enough connection for this to happen.
But maybe it should have just been stated outright. That's why, because they do a lot of hand-holding, I feel like, in the remake, but in certain instances like this one, they didn't. So the motivations aren't as, strong, I feel.
Yeah, they're not. Kind of moving forward here. Really, I think, there's a bunch of other characters we could talk about, like Sam Jackson's in the movie at some point. But I think moving forward, it's probably a good time to talk about this mysterious Captor.
Yes.
Let's knock this out. So, in the original film, it's Yu Ji-tae plays Lee Woo-jin.
그러더니 정말 월경이 그치고 배가 불기 시작했어. 신기하죠.
Who's the man behind Odesu's imprisonment. And in the remake, it's Charlton Copley, who plays Adrian Doyle Price, this stranger that has imprisoned Joe Doucette.
You have no idea how difficult it was for Amanda then. The torture she endured, all because of you. Continue.
Let's see. I got a lot to say about Charlton, so we'll start with Lee Ju-win. Lee Ju is, I don't know, there's like different factors about him that aren't really available in this remake. Like, both characters are wealthy, not really describe why they're, well, Charlton makes a little bit more sense why he's wealthy. It's kind of like family wealth. Right. Lee Ju-win, who knows, but he has this like kind of element where he has this pacemaker thing, which I found kind of arbitrary, but I guess interesting. Like, when where he's like, I can cut off my pacemaker and kill myself.
Well, it's most likely a lie.
Absolutely, most likely. but like, you know, it stops Oldboy from like just taking him out immediately. Lee Ju-win felt like just a more, I don't know, plausible villain to me.
Yeah, for me, he just, again, going to the mystery, like, why is this random guy who seems like an average guy locked up? Why is this guy who is wealthy and seems like a regular dude, why is he locking up this random guy?
Right.
So, again, just that plays into that mystery more, and so you're just, like, hooked a little bit more. You're just like, yeah, I want to know. As opposed to the other guy, hold on. As opposed to Adrian, who immediately comes off as very creepy.
He's creepy as shit immediately.
Immediately, like, I didn't understand the whole point of just like, I'm just going to be very creepy immediately. Like the way he talks, the way he just handles himself, the way he delivers himself. He's just so creepy. You know, like, there's something really weird about this guy.
Yeah, he's off.
So it's a lot more subtle in the original.
Yeah.
Just like, because like, you just like, why is Dave locked up? Well, why did this guy lock him up? I don't even understand. So again, you're engaged as a viewer, and then like in the in the remake, you're just like, well, that guy's creepy, so it could be a number of reasons.
Right. Because like Lee Ju-win is also seemingly normal person. Like when you first see him, you know, he's wearing like a bucket hat. He smiles like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Just some guy, right? Like what the fuck? Like you mentioned, the mystery. The mystery's there the whole time because Odesu's seemingly normal. Lee Ju-win seems like some normal guy. I don't know anything about this guy. I got no read on this at all. Add to the mystery because we don't know why this person would do this to that person. In the remake, it's like it's almost mustache twirling. I'm like, well, Joe, you'll just have to find else. It's like this guy's like Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm like, calm down, dude. You know, he actually reminded me, and this isn't a good thing. He reminded me of the villain in Grandma's Boy, the robot guy.
Sit on my face.
Like, I couldn't take him seriously as a villain. I'm just like, what is this like?
He was over the top for sure.
Way over the top. I just felt like, let's dial it back, man. Let's dial it back. I think that, like I always say, like with Hollywood movies, I think there's just this hand-holding element to it, and he's immediately just the weirdest person.
Yeah.
just like unsettling, and
cool guy.
Yeah, super cool guy. He's unsettling, and you know, this remake just made it so cut and dry. An asshole and a lunatic. You know, like, all right, like here we are, an asshole and a lunatic meet in a bar with Christopher, and like the original, like I don't know, like following that mystery felt fun because I didn't know what was going on at any point.
Exactly. So every time they gave you a little breadcrumb and showed you a little bit more of each character, you were just completely engaged. It's like, I need to know because this is such a weird situation.
Yeah.
As opposed to the remake where you're just like, well, that guy's an asshole and that guy's clearly just some weird creep. And so I think I know these guys. I don't really know any other mystery needs to be unveiled to me.
Yeah. And I mean, the creep factor gets amped up a lot in the story, right? So ultimately in these films, Oldboy is trying to figure out who this stranger is. Lee Ju-win, you know, he's an old prep school friend. Well, friend, no. But like they both went to Evergreen Academy, which is consistent through both films. And you have the fact that Lee Ju was banging his sister, played by Yoon Jin So, who plays Lee Soo-ah, who's Woo Jin's sister. In the remake, Lizzie DeClement plays Amanda Price, who plays the sister of Adrian Price. So, Now, both films are twisted and messed up.
Obviously, yeah. Incest in any way is pretty fucked up.
The relationship between Yoon Jin So character, the sister, with Lee Woo Jin, like that was messed up. Like watching it, I was like, this is dark,
very uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, very uncomfortable. Like he's taking photos of her, they're interacting.
She's taking her panties off. She's saying no. He just keeps going. It's very uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. It's bad, and it's like this. If you ever read like Oedipus Rex, like it's that type of twist and reveal. And it's like, okay, that's messed up, right? The remake, for whatever reason, decides let's take it up a notch, right? And I'm not sure why. In the remake, Adrian Price's father, his name's Arthur Price in the film. He's the one, and that was confusing too, right? By the way, because I didn't immediately know who this character was because he was never introduced. I thought he was like the headmaster or something like that. I was super confused until they had to walk me through that, which never a good sign in a movie when you're confused for like a few minutes. But Arthur Price is the one that's having sex with Amanda Price in the film. Turns out that's her father, and then they have this other awkward scene where like he's walking. So this is so bad. Before the death of the sisters in this film, this Arthur Price character is like walking through his house with a shotgun, and everybody's interacting with him weird. Like he walks into the room, and the sister's like starts to take her clothes off, father, and he's like, boom, blows her away. He just sees the wife, doesn't really care. You're not one of my kids. He just shoots her.
I don't bang you. I only bang my kids.
Yeah, and then you see like the young version of Adrian Price, who's like father, and he starts to unbuckle his pants. So it is dark. It's weird. Everyone gets shot. I didn't like it. I definitely didn't like in the original, like the sister and the brother interacting. I really don't like when you add even more characters in this incestuous relationship, and I just felt like too much. Pull it back.
It's a lot more complicated in the remake. First of all, I just want to note the absurdity of the remake. Like, as soon as dad walks in, you start to undress. Like, every time you see your dad, you just bang. Is that the whole thing? You don't even have, like, one family dinner?
No.
You just got, father, here's my genitals. It's like, I just love that. Every time dad walks in the room, time to undress. But, like, you know, he goes into this convoluted way of explaining, like, my dad is such a loving guy. But it's weaker. It is weaker because, like, Dae-soo sees the brother and sister banging, ultimately leads to the sister committing suicide because rumors of her being a whore, rumors of her being pregnant.
Right.
And she actually started to show that she was pregnant. Right. Whether it was she was really pregnant or just some kind of psychological thing that made her belly swell, it's left ambiguous. Again, a lot of ambiguity in the original film, which plays to its strength.
Yes.
So, you know...
Yeah, like phantom pregnancy. I've never heard of that.
Right.
Like, okay.
They do happen though sometimes. So, like, and then like you know, so that makes our antagonist is avenging his sister.
Right. As
opposed to the remake where it's like, oh, the sister is getting treated like shit a lot. Again, playing to like that Joe Doucette being a douchebag. Mm-hmm. In that flashback they show, he was a real asshole to her for no reason. Yeah. He's just taking her panties after she did her laundry and just like flashing around, throwing him to young Christopher, to young Chucky, and just sniffs them. So they're all assholes. Yeah, they're all assholes.
And again, here we are again with this character who's been a dick his whole life, right?
Like, his whole life.
He's got an alcohol problem because like he's storing booze everywhere on campus. Him and Chucky are just dicks. Like in the original, what they did was wrong. But I mean, is it like?
No. It's worse in the remake because a young Doucette says, "I told everybody."
Right.
I told fucking everybody. Right. When I saw that shit, I told everybody that your sister fucked some old guy. Yeah. In the original,
they had to move to Luxembourg. Yeah. It was so bad.
Dae-soo's just like, I just told my one buddy because it was my last day, and he told him not to tell anybody.
Right.
And he didn't.
You know what's interesting too? What makes this reveal better in the original is because Dae-soo, because of the hypnotism, which again could have gone sideways, but actually works here. was like, "Oh, you hypnotized me and made me forget that this ever happened." He's like, "No, you just forgot."
Yeah.
And
like going, just to quote like Street Fighter 2, like, for you it was the worst day of your life. For me it was Tuesday. So,
Raul Julia, dude.
So that's pretty much what happened in the original.
Yeah, and like that works really well. That like this, because there's this quote throughout the film about like something sinking, whether it's a grain of sand
right.
or like a stone.
Right.
They all sink the same way, right? So like, it's a cool dynamic that Dae-soo didn't really do anything that wrong, right?
He
like,
told one friend about some weird shit he saw. He didn't know who the guy was.
Right.
He barely even knew the girl.
Correct. He was like, "Oh, it's some girl. She's in your class." That happened, and then the friend started talking. But like, yes, Dae-soo put that into motion, but like, it's a pretty normal thing. Like, hey, you got a buddy who's like, "Yo, I saw something crazy."
Yeah, I saw someone fucking in that room. Like, yeah, you're gonna tell some people.
You're in high school. You're gonna tell a lot of people. But because Joe Doucette is such an asshole, he, like you said, the scene where he takes the girl's panties, he's already torturing her, so he knows who she is. Right? It's not like some random girl he doesn't know. It's like he's being a dick to her, and to the point that other people in the class are trying to defend her. Him and Chucky go really hard on this gossip. And
they show the flashback too of everybody calling her a whore in the
remake,
remake,
it's pretty rough.
which looked pretty cheesy too. Like,
Yeah,
everybody's going whore, like they're fucking like 10 years old or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was rough, but like you also lose the element of him remembering, right? Like, it's not, they don't really address whether he remembered or didn't remember what happened. He's just like, "Oh yeah, it's you," right? Like the original, it's very, again, compelling that this moment was so inconsequential in his own life,
right?
But it led to so much pain, so much like torture. Doucette, like, yeah, I mean, no one should be in prison for 20 years for like just stating something kind of factual, but like because this guy was an asshole, it could swing you in that direction. And because the villain is so fucking strange, it all seems so arbitrary and weird, right? Like, wait, man, you've got this, like, you don't understand the love that a father and a sister and a what, like,
there's too many players,
too much.
So like it's just so simple. Like, obviously it's incest. It's just like horrible and weird.
Simple incest.
Simple incest. Just love one member of your family, not all of your family. Can we simplify the incest here?
Oh man.
So it's like it's also like, I don't know, just like unclear exactly like who is he avenging? Is he avenging more the dad, the sister?
Yeah,
kind of a
little the dad. Though.
More to his dad. Like, did they all bang together? It's like, I
don't know, dude. You don't want to ask those questions, dude.
Yeah, I don't want to be asking those questions.
But he's like, Arthur Price was a good man, and he never did anything wrong. You don't understand. It's like, hey, bro, you're weird. You're creepy. Like, that's not the character saying. It's me, the audience member. And I'm like, I don't like any of this.
I'll give it to this though. Adrian was very nice because he said, in addition to not killing the fake daughter, he would give him like $20 million in
diamonds.
Yeah, diamonds. So that's cool. That's a new addition.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's just part of his weird, like, Saul-like plot line. Like, it's just
his revenge seems very weak. So just going back to the two antagonists, like, in the original film, Lee Woo-jin, like, his whole thing is his sister was killed, so I'm gonna get back at this guy. And ultimately he succeeds.
Yes.
Both villains in both films succeed, but, like, his thing's a lot more, it's just easier to follow. Like, I loved my sister, you said this thing, it led her to commit suicide, so now I have to kill you. Or I need to make you experience the same kind of pain, I guess, that I kind of felt.
Right.
And then like the remake, he's like, okay, so I experienced this pain because my dad killed all my family members and tried to kill me, but like, so you're gonna bang your daughter, and then I'm gonna give you all this money if you can figure it out right away. I don't know. It's just, the motivation of the antagonist just doesn't make as much sense to me.
No, and
his suicide doesn't make any sense either.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Like the I mean, we're without getting into the ending just yet. That scene plays just so much better in the original film. Like because it's so simple, right? It was like, you didn't know this. It was me. I love my sister. Dark as hell, but like that character's been holding that pain for so long, and it was a really simple storyline. So even getting this revenge, like when the character does what he does, like everyone's just going through this agonizing moment, and it translated really well the way it was shot. In the remake, it's just like, in another awful thing that I've done, in another awful thing, and and then when he takes himself out, spoilers, I feel nothing. Like that almost false start in the original when like both of them are like next to each other, and he has the gun. Like it's like, oh my goodness, like that could have been a poetic ending.
Yeah,
it's not the ending, but like, wow, that's interesting. But like, this is just like, and I just dumped all this information on you, and I'm out. Like,
yeah, it just seems like a sloppy way of just getting rid of the antagonist in the remake. I'll give, without spoiling the endings, I guess. The original, there's this line when he meets up with Dae-soo one time. He goes, "Revenge is great. Revenge can really mask everything. But once revenge is done, all that pain will resurface."
Right.
So that's exactly what happens to our antagonist. As soon as Dae-soo gets all his comeuppance and he succeeds in his plan fully, and Dae-soo realizes he lost, all that pain of his sister's death, her suicide, comes rushing back at him.
Yep.
And he can't handle it at all. So he just kills himself like immediately as soon as his revenge is done. Because, like he said, revenge is great, but as soon as it's gone, pain will resurface. We don't get anything like that.
Nothing like that.
And the only reason he would kill himself is because he said he would to do set.
Yeah.
And it's so much weaker because of that.
Yeah.
Just by saying that one simple line. Revenge is so useful to get through life, but once it's gone, pain will resurface. That is such a small line, but it explains our antagonist's motivations for why he killed himself.
Yeah, throughout the film, there's like little lines that they're subtle. They come back in like subtle ways. Like the painting. laugh, and the world laughs with you. Weep, and
you weep alone.
It's like. Works with everything that's happening. The grain of the grain of sand line works because Dae-soo didn't really do that much, and here we are.
And Dae-soo does that fake smile so much in that original film.
Yeah, it works really, really well. And ultimately, the way they sort of shoot that character's reaction after he kind of gets his revenge, like that's a well shot scene. It just it's a simple package. Like in your head, the mystery is like this big thing, and it's very simple why we're here, and it's the power of this original film. This remake, I hired an actress to pretend to be your daughter, and then there she is over there, and she's wiping a bruise makeup off her face, and also I got these diamonds, and also it was my dad, and also, and it's like, hey man, this is too much, bro. Like, just simple story. I think that, again, I don't know if it's because of the Western audience. I think that they're trying to not have a guy bang his sister and make like this villain character that we don't really meet, make him the bad guy and make them victims, so that it all, I guess, makes sense in everyone's head. But like, it just overcomplicates things, and it weakens the story. It's not the same story.
No.
And it does not work. Unfortunate.
I mean, we're getting to the endings.
Yeah.
We should get there, but should we talk about the action first, or should we talk about...
Yeah, let's talk about some of the action in the film. I think that
I mean, we're talking about the action. There's a significant scene if you've seen the original Oldboy. That hallway scene.
Yes.
It's just such a powerful scene. It's a one-shot scene, and it's an amazing scene. So I think we should just start there, because it is the action of both films.
So yeah, I'll say this, that in terms of like kind of minor action before we get there, both films kind of like we see these characters training in the prison. They both kind of like beat up some street toughs, and that's whatever. Like we've learned these characters can fight. We really see they can fight when he goes back to his prison to get answers. Yeah. After he tortures the warden, Samuel Jackson in the remake. We won't waste too much time because it doesn't really matter. Whether you're pulling someone's teeth out or you're cutting their neck off, whatever, torture. That scene is sick in the original, dude. Sick in the original. It's sick. Like you get this wide shot. Basically, you have a set where like they make it look like a hallway, but like you're in the hallway. Right. Like there's no other wall, right? And there's like fucking 10 guys over here, and there's Odesu.
More than that, for sure.
Dude, it is so good. It's actually believable that he would be fighting as many guys. And just the way the camera fucking pans and like as he's fighting, like it's like this push-pull. Like he's getting the advantage and the camera moves. He's losing the advantage, the camera moves. Everyone's got weapons. It's brutal, visceral. Like Odesu's got a hammer. He's just like fucking whacking people in the face, in the kneecaps and shit like that. A guy stabs him early in the fight. We'll get to that. And he's just fighting these guys with a knife in his back. And just brutalizing everybody. I love this scene. I'm gonna stop talking so you can talk about the scene.
I mean, I love it as well. It's one of my favorite fight scenes like in a movie ever. It like you said, it's just shot so well. We're in this hallway. It's one long shot. You just see Odesu fighting. I love a lot of things about it. One of the things I love is just you can just see how tired he's getting the whole time. Like he's fighting a dozen guys at least, and you just see him getting more tired and tired, and it's raw, it's gritty, it's fantastic. I love it. I love the score that's playing over it. It's not this big bombastic action song. It's like this really kind of like dramatic music that's playing over it, and it just works so well with it. And I think a big reason the scene works so well is because of who Dae-soo is. He's not Schwarzenegger. He's not this big jacked guy. He's a flabby guy. He's a bit heavy, and he's able to take out all these guys. And you had mentioned that we did see Dae-soo fight. We saw him fight a little bit. We saw him fight some kids in the street for like a second. We didn't see the full extent of that fight. So yeah, he can take out some kids randomly. Right. But to see him take out these full adults who are like gangsters, pretty much like hired guns for fighting, and he's able to take them all out, it just really makes it such an impactful, a powerful, a memorable scene. And it was just shot so well, and it's one of the highlights of the original, easily. So
easily one of the highlights. A lot of times when you watch like action sequences, you punch this guy, he's knocked out. Right. I love that like guys are, like clutching their legs, they're throwing their weapons at him, like fuck you, man. Like
and they miss. Like there's a lot of like just random stuff, like small touches in it that I like that just make me feel more real. Like he's backing up and then there's a piece of the plank of wood and he just kicks it away. It's just small detail, but it works. Like that, it sells that this is real. It doesn't feel like choreographed. It just feels so raw. They throw the planks at him and they miss. It's like they're just the last ditch effort to try to beat him.
Again, like there's a similar scene in Remake, which we're going to talk about. But like he got stabbed early, right? And like there are moments where he's losing the fight, like where he's getting stomped out,
and they think he's dead.
They do think he's dead, and he's like, he's playing possum, and he's slamming the hammer around. I mean, like, is it 100% believable? No, he's fighting 12 guys, but like, it feels like that could happen. Like some like lunatic dude that's been training for 15 years is just like kind of kicking some guys. Like I bought it, and like the way it's shot, I mean, I haven't seen a scene shot that well since like The Raid. I don't know if you've ever seen those.
Yeah,
like it feels it feels real, even though it's a completely nonsensical scenario, man. So good. Which makes me wonder
10 years later
why it's shot so poorly in the remake. They tried to do the exact same thing. They tried to do this like wide shot, single take thing. Apparently they did it in one take, and they edited it, which is why.
Because it takes place on 2 different levels, so I feel like when he climbs down, I feel like there's a cut there.
Yeah.
It feels like a cut. Just the way the camera moves around.
The scene doesn't... It's not the same.
No, it's not the same at all.
Like, I guess it's the fight choreography in the original, like you said, the kicking of the plank and stuff like that. The way the camera moves, I mean, like, I can't emphasize this enough. Like, it moves in a way that makes you feel like there's tension in this fight. In the remake, I don't feel that tension. I just see a guy just kind of like, you know, just hitting people that are falling down. Like, it doesn't feel as visceral and real. And I can't even really put my finger to it other than like it just shot much worse.
Yeah. There's a multitude of reasons I could explain why I didn't enjoy the fight in the remake. Number one, Josh Brolin, just going to, again, the physicality of our Daesu versus this Doucette guy. Like, Josh Brolin's a big guy.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Big guy. He's an imposing guy. Mm-hmm. And we know he can fight because we saw him fight those guys at the football field earlier.
Right.
And, like, Daesu's, like I said, it's very important that they cut that Daesu fight with those kids quickly because we didn't see the full extent of what Daesu can do.
Right.
But we saw Josh Brolin fuck up these football guys.
Crazy.
That was more graphic than this hallway scene. So our expectations of his fighting ability are already very high. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But like Daesu, you don't know the full extent of what he can do. Can he take out this hallway? Like you said, he got stabbed early. It looked like he was gonna fucking lose.
Yeah.
But he's able to pull through. But Josh Brolin, his fight is just so fast.
He gets stabbed so much later in the fight.
He gets stabbed a lot later. Yeah, like at the very end, right before it cuts.
Right.
He gets stabbed, and you know, Josh Brolin's big guy. Also, again, the music that's playing is much more what you'd expect from an action scene, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't have that dramatic weight that it did in the original film. So you're just it's like dun, 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 dun. It's a kind of like just like let's go, like this adrenaline building score, as opposed to this score in the original film that's just so poignant and just like brings in like the weight of like, man, this guy has been through a lot. Now he has to go through this shit right now, and you're gonna experience all of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you feel because this is what's gonna happen right now. And then it cuts, and then you see. I'm now going back to the remake. It cuts, and he goes down a level, and now we're shooting it behind a chain link fence too, so you can't even see that well.
Yeah, it's a problem.
So it doesn't have the impact that the original had at all.
Because like after this initial sequence in both films, Odesu's going through it in this fight. Like he wins, but like it's pretty rough. And then when they introduce the fact like an elevator opens and there's more guys, it's like oh shit, you know. It doesn't feel the same in the remake. It's like elevator, all right. Like
there's so many moments in this fight. This is my impression of Odesu in half the fight.
yeah.
That guy is going through it, man.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin maybe he's just a couple seconds on his knees, but like he's going the whole time. Like you could just feel the way it's just draining Odesu the whole time. It's just masterfully shot.
It is. You know, there's a reason why I think they showed it to me in basically a film studies class.
Yeah.
It's about as good of a fight scene as you can do on film. It was incredible scene, and you know, there's a lot of things that make this movie work, but like that sequence, I think, just puts it over the top.
Yeah, from one of the things I remember, like I said, one of the things I remember from viewing it my first time was just that hallway scene, just how long it was. It just kept going. You just thought it was like over for Daesu, but it just kept going, and he actually pulls through in the end. And you don't get that sense of like Josh Brolin might not make it through this at all.
No.
Yeah.
So that's a major difference. Like I said, I think the storyline's more convoluted. We alluded to the fact that Samuel Jackson's in this remake. He plays a warden called Cheney. The original warden in the other film is he's more consequential. Like, there's more scenes with him and stuff like that. He gets,
Mr. Park.
yeah, Mr. Park. He gets his arm cut off, and
He gets his first of all, he gets his teeth pulled out.
Yes,
which is a lot different than just getting a little bit of skin, and then just going into like, I guess this is action. I guess you can call like just the ripping out of the teeth, the way it was shot. Like, even to this day, like when I rewatched it, I still was just like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can watch this, man. Like, that teeth getting pulled out. It's just like, because they really just zoom in on the back of the hammer, just like against the teeth. You see like the blood start to drip down right before he just yanks the first tooth out. It's just so much more brutal for some reason than like a little bit of skin here, a little bit of skin here.
Yeah, it's like, I'm gonna rip your head off. It's like, that's a weird roundabout way to torture somebody. Dao Su-oh is Park Cho-wong in that movie. Yeah, like, because Mr. Park has like multiple scenes, right? Like, there's the initial torture. When he comes back, he basically begins to torture, well, is about to torture Odesu, and we get almost like this false start where it's like, see, your mind is worse than the actual pain.
Right.
And then the guy comes back who's like, well, no, like, even though I cut his hand off, the bad guy or the captor in that film, so no, he still works for me. I mean, like, I traded his hand for another prison, basically. I was expecting Samuel Jackson's character to like come back into play, and he doesn't.
Doesn't really. No, not until the very end, and even then, it doesn't really matter because it didn't even have to be Sam Jackson. It could have just been anybody.
Could have been anybody. Could have been anybody. Kind of a waste of time, man.
Yeah. He had a cool mohawk.
Yeah, that's true. And the only other thing that I'll note in the film, for anyone, I guess if you really want to watch this movie, you get to see a lot of Josh Brolin's butt, and Elizabeth Olsen gets nude in the film. So if that's what you're into, that's in that film.
Well, we have 4 Marvel alums. We got Josh Brolin, Thanos. We got Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen. We have Mantis, who plays a bodyguard. I don't remember the actress's name.
Yeah, the actress's name. I just had it. Hold up. I'm gonna pull it up here.
I'll say this: we have Sam Jackson, Nick Fury, and then we have
Palm Clementif.
Palm Clementif, who plays Mantis in the Guardians of the Galaxy. So we have 4 Marvel alums, way before, I guess, any of them. No, because
it was 2013. So.
No, because I think Scarlet. Okay, so Nick Fury was definitely there, but like I don't think Scarlet Witch came until Age of Ultron, which is after.
That's true, and I don't think we had the Guardians.
Yeah, we didn't tell much later.
Definitely not Mantis.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were just testing out the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Oldboy universe. But yeah, I think that ultimately, I think we got in terms of action, in terms of like a lot of these major differences. It might be time to talk about the endings.
Yeah, we can talk about the endings. So, like you said, in the original, we have this hypnosis element, which we'll play into it soon. Anyway, so when Odesu finds out that it is his daughter, he like freaks the fuck out.
Yeah.
Again, we talked about him being kind of pathetic in the beginning. We see the pathetic Odesu here again. So he's like, I'll do whatever you want. Oh, you want me to be a dog? He's barking like a dog.
Yeah.
You know, he's
licks his boot. It's
he's really he's as pathetic as pathetic can be. He's doing anything. He's like, please, you're not telling me about our relationship. I'll do anything you want.
Right.
And then,
just to clarify, at one point in both films, the old boy character has sex with the love interest, which is recorded by the captor. And after Oldboy thought that he solved the thing, was like, you banged your sister, or your dad banged your sister, the guy was like, I do love this line. It's like, you asked the question of like who I am, but you never asked the question why I imprisoned you for...
No. He's like, you asked the question why I imprisoned you. You never asked the right question why I let you out.
Right. Why I let you out. And it was a make you bang your and just to clarify, because as you're saying, once Oldboy in the original film knows that Mito's his daughter and that the antagonist is going to tell her, he starts to do the things you're describing.
Yeah, so our main character knows, and the daughter's pretty much going to get savvy to that. She's going to be told. And Dae-Soo is pretty much doing anything he can to persuade our antagonist. He's like, please don't, I'll be your dog, I'll be your bodyguard, I'll be whatever you want. Then he finds a pair of scissors.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I know what you want. So like, we don't see it, but it, again, just shot masterfully. We see Dae-Soo's eyes, we see the scissors go up to his tongue, then it just kind of cuts to his hand, and we see the scissors completely closed. So we know that Dae-Soo has cut out his tongue, because it was his tongue and is talking about the sister, which made her commit suicide, which led us to where we are today. So like, he cuts out his tongue, and ultimately the antagonist is like, don't tell her. He's like, all right, that was good enough for me. Don't tell her. So he just kind of leaves Dae-Soo there. He's like, he's pathetic as he is. He's won, but like I said before, now that his revenge is fulfilled, the pain of his sister's death and being there and just letting her go on top of that dam, letting her fall to her death, was too much for our antagonist. So he just takes a gun, blow his head out.
Yeah.
And that's it for the antagonist, but that's not it for Dae-Soo, because he finds the hypnotist. He's able to write to her. He obviously can't speak to her because he's cut his tongue out. And she didn't want to help him, but it was the last line in that letter. He's like, even though I am a beast, am I not allowed to live?
Right.
And that line charmed her enough where she's like, okay, I'll put the hypnosis on you. Your daughter doesn't know who you are. Now you won't know about your relationship. So she does her little hypnosis, and then the daughter shows up, and she's like, what, Dae-Soo, what happened? What had happened? He's like, what? I don't know. She's like, were you with somebody? There's 2 chairs there, but it's kind of left ambiguous. And then the movie ends with Dae-Soo's smile. And, you know, smile and the world smiles with you.
Yeah.
So, again, a little ambiguous. Was there really the hypnotist there? And if she was there, did it really work? Or is he just pretending? So, he's just gonna be with his daughter in a really fucked up way, but he might be happy, he might not be happy. We don't know. It's left to us to decide.
Yeah. I love that in this like closing sequence, like our villain character, Lee Ju when he takes the gun, he puts it up to both their heads. But he doesn't pull the trigger there. That was masterfully done, like you mentioned, the cutting of the tongue. Dae-Soo trying to, like, because at one point this villain says that he has a pacemaker that he can turn off at any time, basically to buy himself time so Dae-Soo doesn't kill him. He's trying to push the button, doesn't work.
Just plays audio of the first time Dae-Soo and his daughter had sex. Playing into the age thing, because she's a virgin. So, like, the whole time they're having sex, she's just talking about how much it hurts, but she's willing to take it for him because she loves him. I think that just makes it so much worse.
It's so bad. It's all bad.
It's all bad.
And, you know, as the villain's, like, you know, triumphant in that moment, right, walking away, I really enjoy the fact that, like, they take him back to when he was on that dam with his sister, trying to hold her back from jumping off the dam. And you see the young version of him, and then it turns into the old version of him, symbolizing that pain that you're talking about. The fact that, like, even with the revenge, he still feels it, and he compels him to shoot himself. I mean, these choices make this scene so strong. I mean, like, you want to talk about, like I said, like an Oedipal, like tragic storyline. They take a nice bow and wrap it up, and the ambiguity at the end is strong too.
Yeah, the antagonist constantly says, like, Dae-Soo, like, I was lonely so many times, but you kept me going. You kept me going. Now that he no longer has his pet to play with, it just makes so much sense. Yeah. Suicide.
Yeah, he's done. Like, his only driving force was to get revenge, and now that that's done, like, what's left? Right. Yeah. Very strong.
Very different ending.
Here you go. In the remake. So I'll try to take it.
I was about to say, please take this.
So you get kind of the same thing, right? Like, you know, homeboy, Josh Brolin's Joe Doucette goes back to the Evergreen Academy. He finds out what happens at this point. In the remake, we have like this false daughter that's been shown in the television series, and Joe Doucette thinks he's gonna, like, you know, I know who you are. you're gonna not kill my daughter. You're gonna give me the diamonds for some reason. And you know, he immediately, very different actually. He immediately kills Palm's character.
Yeah.
Like just like no problem.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, she's kind of kicking his ass. She's like, I had
a razor in the other hand the whole time.
It's like, well, that was anticlimactic. and like, because that was different, I was like, all right, what are we going to do here? But Adrian Price, he goes into this creepy story. Come along with me, Joe, if you want to see your daughter. And he basically shows that, like, Mia Doucette, as has been shown in this television series, isn't real. There's a whole television studio in this guy's creepy mansion basement thing. You see the actress who's playing Mia Doucette playing the violin.
Cello.
Thank you. Sorry. Fucking musicians. No, but you're right. It is a cello. Yeah, she's playing the cello, and Josh Brolin's like, "Oh, there's my daughter," and he's like, "I love you," and Adrian Price is like, "Nah, you can leave now. I've been paying her to pretend to be your daughter for like years now." She wipes, like I said, the makeup off her face, and Josh Brolin is just confused as hell. That's when we get into the whole backstory with the. I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff, right? Once it's revealed that Mia Doucette is not Mia Doucette, he shows this like weird projection of the life of Joe Doucette's real daughter, who ends up being Elizabeth Olsen. Surprise, surprise. Plays that music, just like you were talking about. Not music, but plays the audio of Josh Brolin and Elizabeth Olsen banging in the series.
I think he shows the video of it, actually.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Doesn't he? He sure does. And man, what throws me off here is that, right? Like, we don't get the same reaction. Like, you don't get this whole I'm cutting my tongue out. You're not getting this whole like back and forth like my sister and like flashbacks of the sister, because like we already talked about that in this film. You just basically get Josh Brolin begging Adrian Price to not tell the Elizabeth Olsen character about what happened, right? He doesn't, I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure. You're just like, yeah, I guess I won't.
Yeah.
Good point there, Joe.
And then he like graphically just kind of like blows his brains out. I didn't quite. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the original Oldboy scenes, that whole sequence is just like super. Like you're locked in. Like holy hell, look at all the stuff that's happening. This is like, here's a video, and yes, I guess I won't tell. And then I just shoot myself in the head. And what's different in this sequence is Joe Doucette, instead of like you said with the hypnotist and going and trying to erase his memories from his head, he writes another letter. We get another voiceover. He writes Elizabeth Olsen. He's like, I've done an unforgivable sin. You're never going to see me again. Like, you will never see me again. And try to be happy with that doctor guy we introduced earlier in the first act, who doesn't matter. And he basically pays the Samuel Jackson character to put him back into the prison.
Right.
He gives, the daughter a bunch of diamonds, like, take care of yourself, kid.
Yeah.
And then you see him smile as he's like imprison himself for the sin of having sex with his daughter. No, not a fan.
It's definitely a weaker ending. The fact that he just didn't want to tell the daughter for no real reason, like
they have no connection. You're not connected. I guess to save her from this truth, but like, you have this concept because they introduced a doctor where he's like, don't hurt her, dude, because she's an addict and she might be an addict again. Just be like, hey, I know we've had this great connection or anything like that, but peace, I'm out. And like the idea that like because it's happened, like I never want to see my daughter again because I don't know, like it just you spend 20 years in this prison.
Right.
You go through all this effort and this completely sociopathic billionaire, like puts you through like this crazy Riddler Joker style like scenario. And yeah, no, it's bad. It's an unforgivable sin, but like I don't know, man. Like we've got no closure for this other character who just exists to be your daughter. And you're telling me that your solution is to go back into the prison. I don't know. I found it to be really weak. I don't care what happens. Like that's not your fault, you know. And like, don't like leave the country, do something else. Like you have a life to live, and like it just I don't know. As problematic as it could be for Odesu to continue his relationship, I found that more fitting than this. Like I'm going back into the cell.
Yeah.
You know.
Ultimately, what the original Oldboy does is has the antagonist win. He completely wins.
Yep.
And that his plan is fulfilled, and it seems like Odesu is going to continue that relationship. Right. So the relationship that the antagonist had with his sister, Odesu, is going to continue having with his daughter, which is fucked up. Is fucked up.
Yes.
But the antagonist wins.
Right.
Outright. Completely.
There's no question.
Yeah.
The plan was implemented. It was masterfully done, and he taught Odesu. As fucked up as it is, like
that's your love,
yeah, dude, and man, I don't know, it's dark and tragic, but
our villain completely wins. In the remake, our villain does win. He has him right where he wants him, but then he just decides to kill himself a little early, and then Doucette is kind of left to his own devices as to like what he wants to do, and he decides to, like you said, he's paying for his ultimate sin by being in solitude. So the antagonist doesn't complete his mission like he does in the original film.
That's a great point. No, because Joe Doucette ends things on his own terms. Yeah, like he's just does it suck to go back to the prison? I guess, but like he put himself there. I feel like if he ever got tired of it, he'd be like, hey, I think I'm done with this.
I want to go to Wendy's really quick.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, like that change is just not. It's a little nonsensical,
Yeah, they're giving him this agency where it's not, but it's so weak at the same time. Right.
Because you got Elizabeth Olsen kind of driving around. Here I am again on my own. It's implied that
they should have just had that song.
Yeah, they really should have. They implied that that this character is going to have a decent life going forward. Right. I don't know how. I don't know. Just like you said, the antagonist killing himself at the end doesn't have nearly the same weight because he's not reacting the same way our antagonist did in the original.
Right, exactly.
Which was he had this relationship with his sister. The sister thing is like inconsequential to him, it seems like.
Right.
He does get mad at Chucky for calling her a whore.
Right.
But like he seems to be more concerned with family legacy.
Right.
Versus love. So it's not a one-to-one connection, right? Mm-hmm. Like this villain in the original is like, I love my sister, you love your daughter, right? Like this is like, I have an honorable family, my father was right, and what you did is wrong, and I'm going to show you how right this type of love is, and then I'm just going to kill myself, and don't really care what you do after that. Showed you. Like that's the like literally that's the end of the movie. Told you, and he just shoots himself. Weird, man.
You somewhat made the antagonist in the original sympathetic, just putting him through that scene again, making him relive his sister's suicide. Obviously, incest is fucked up, but I felt bad for the guy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna relive that.
They make it, which I guess is kind of the point. They make it so that you relate to this monster, like this villain, and like, it's all wrong. Like it's all wrong, but like because his take on that scenario and us seeing him in the end with his sister like leaving this sort of mortal plane, like it just you almost forget how fucked up it is.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh my god, like this is terrible. What's happening to this guy? But yeah, I don't know. Like in a way, in both films, like this antagonist is taking no responsibility for his actions, right? Like his role in this is not discussed. This is all Odesu's fault, or this is Doucette's fault. But it's like, no. But like the original film does in a way that like, all right, yeah, I guess I could see what you're saying. Like, yeah, I guess he messed that up for you. That remake, I don't know, man. It's just such a weird, strange, complicated thing. It's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to cling to here.
I think part of the problem is just the antagonist. She's just so weird and creepy. Another
Please say it on
Say it on my face.
Dad.
Dad. Another small difference I noticed. It's like it seems like the antagonist, like everybody who works for him, knows about this incestuous relationship. But in the original, maybe that's not common knowledge to everybody. When Odesu says to him in the elevator, because he's got his henchman with him, he's like, "You were fucking your sister." The antagonist does this pause where he just looks at the guy he hired just to kind of gauge his reaction. Like, so what do you think about that, huh? I'm fucking paying you. I don't have any opinions about that. So it's like, it wasn't like everybody knew, but like in the remake, everybody knows. It's, I love banging daddy.
Yeah.
So
and then like, I don't know, because the hiring of people, right? Like the actors and stuff, like that. Like when the actress leaves, it's so weird, right? Because it's like I get that you're paying her, but like, when she just sits there and like helps you torture people, like that's like, I don't know. It's just like you said, with everyone knowing what's going on, it's harder for me to just sit there and be like I guess he's paying you all well, but like it brings in ethical concerns about people that are inconsequential in the film.
I didn't hate that he hired an actress to play the daughter. I thought that was actually a good misdirection the original maybe could have used, because he kind of just gives up on the daughter.
That's fair.
And it's like, well, he just kind of gave up on her. But like, yeah, so it makes more sense. I liked that inclusion, that like let's have this real this fake daughter here, so that when the twist comes, like you're really like, oh shit, I really had no idea. I didn't hate it.
No, I didn't hate it. I found like the scene where he kind of dismisses her to be weird, but I did think that like in terms of some of the changes they made, that was one of the stronger ones because of the psychological toll of like, you're like this like Truman Show type thing, like this audience of one thing where it's like you're the one person that this is on television for, and like I've got infinite resources, so I just made this happen. Yeah, I don't know. It is a good misdirect. Like you mentioned in the original, she was adopted by people in Sweden, and
that's it.
Here's a phone number. You gonna call her? Nah.
Especially because in the remake too, like this whole thing is like, the antagonist is like, I'm gonna kill your daughter unless you do this. In the original, it's like, I'm gonna kill Mito,
right?
Yeah. So there's no threat to the daughter. So you think he's doing this whole thing for his daughter. So the fact that he was banging his daughter, just like, wow, it should be more fucked up. But for some reason, it doesn't feel more fucked up than the original.
No, sure. Yeah, it's all real strange. That's how the remake ends.
Yeah, that's how those movies end.
That's heavy stuff, dude. I guess we're at the portion where we kind of discuss it. We talk music, we talk action. We're at the point now where it's like, I guess, Dan, should this remake exist?
Upon my rewatch, I guess I'll go back. When I first watched the original Oldboy, I thought it was like an amazing film. Subject matter is fucked up, but it just told in a way that completely engrossed me, and I was just like, I needed to know more and more. Like, why is this happening? Where are we going? This is where we're going. Fuck.
Yeah.
That was a good action scene. Fuck. This is fucked up. It's a really amazing film. If you haven't watched it, what are you doing? Listening to this, definitely watch it. It's such a great film. And to remake that, is a tall order because it's so good, that original film. Did Spike Lee hit that mark? I don't think he did. I don't think he did at all.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so many small changes that really affect so much. It's nuts. Like, we spent so much time discussing Daesu versus Duchette, and just like how making him an asshole just like completely changed the whole film, and it really does. And I just found very little to latch onto in the remake. And then even the action scene, even though it's shot very well and looks really cool, it still pales in comparison to what was done 10 years prior.
I know.
It's nuts how a film that came out 10 years later just wasn't able to meet it. But there's problems with it, and even Spike Lee has said like, he's disowned the film. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna say no, this remake should not exist. That original Oldboy is fantastic as it is, did not need to be redone. Yeah,
that's fair. I mean, apparently with the Spike Lee thing, there's more. There's like 30 more minutes at least.
Yeah, the film right now is a little over 100 minutes. His original vision was 140 minutes. The studio made him cut a lot of stuff, so he was not happy.
Yeah. Well, riding that momentum, he wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. The original film is a very unique film. I remember the first time I watched it, I was, I've used this word a few times today, but I was compelled. Like, I was watching it, there's this mystery. Who is this Odesu guy? Who's this? And like when Mito shows up, it's like, yeah, okay, like that's cool, like whoever this Mito is, but like what's happening with the mystery? And like that's the misdirection in the film. They're like, you've got this character that plays this sort of love interest, and by the end you find out who this love interest is, and just the tragedy of it all, what happened to Odesu, what happened to Mito, what happens to Wu Jin, and his sister and stuff like that. Like, I've never seen a film like this. Yeah. In terms of action sequence that you're talking about, every time I watch it, I get hyped up because it's just shot so damn well. I mean, this one take fight sequence, it's so good. And there's just all these little, like, if you go back and watch the film, there's these little references throughout that are alluding to what's to come. And it's, again, if you haven't seen Oldboy, stop listening to us and go watch Oldboy. The remake, the changes are, I mean, there are a few changes that work. I mean, you did reference the fake Mia Doucette. That was...
I like the gaslighting with like the fake show, the fake daughter. I thought that was a smart decision.
That was strong. I mean, but like you're doing random things like the sequence. Like, yeah, there was a fight with some guys in the original film, but like in the remakes, it's like this ridiculous, like fighting on a football field.
Yeah,
it's just like
it's over. It's the more violent than the fight in the hall.
Yeah, and like these guys didn't really do anything. Yeah. They're like actually trying to protect someone else from this creep.
Protecting a woman from this guy who is a creep in the movie.
He is a creep. and then on top of that, like he does it in front of like the girlfriend. It's all like he's an irredeemable character that just floats through this story. They make the villain so cartoonish that like I mean, like, I don't know, there was something much better about the subtlety of the villainry in the original film that like by just leaning into I'm a bad guy and this is a bad guy, like it left nothing to the imagination. So that when we get this reveal, which is so impactful in the original film, it's flat. Like it's messed up, but like I don't know, like even the way we get into Elizabeth Olsen in the story doesn't matter. Like, the reveal doesn't feel like it has the same weight because we haven't set up the same stakes. And adding the father and stuff like that, the whole thing, it's just muddier, it's messier, it's less interesting. The fight sequence isn't shot as well. Like, it's just, how do you mess that up, right? Like you said, it's 10 years later and you didn't do anything better. Like, that's actually hard to pull off, especially with this incredible cast of characters. Like, the cast is incredible, and everybody, no one gets it. Like, no one gets it right in the film, and I don't know if it's a screenplay, I don't know if it's a direction, the studio notes, but this is not a good movie at all, and especially if you know that a much better film exists that's about the same thing, just like go watch that. Hollywood, stop doing this. Like, you don't have to. If you're gonna do a remake, do it and do it right. You know, they didn't do it right. This should not exist. It's a bad movie.
Watered down remake for sure.
Yeah.
It just, you can make that fight just like, you could make it so much better. Like, have the camera move around a little bit more. You don't have to do it exactly the same way where it's just like shot from like one side. Like, yeah, let's go around. Let's have some fun.
I think you're right. Like, I think if like, because I mentioned like that push-pull motion, but like maybe if you like flip the camera when he's losing parts of the fight, you know, like that could
have it go around. Do something a little bit different by doing almost the same thing, but having it on two separate levels.
You could even get like a top-down shot too. Like that could be interesting. You know, I don't know. What we got wasn't though.
Yeah, it was just overall characters, action, the story, the music, everything just works so much better in that original film. Everything went down in the remake for sure. And again, like I said, heard Spike Lee, his original vision like wasn't met, so he actually changed it from his usual Spike Lee joint to directed by Spike Lee because he just hated the film. Josh Brolin has come out saying he hates the theatrical cut and what Spike Lee's original vision was a lot better. So it's just, it's not a good film. It does not even need to be watched, I think.
Yeah, you know, speaking of like studios and stuff like that, like, did anyone know what they were filming? Like, have you seen Oldboy? Like, maybe they haven't. Like,
it's funny too because like Elizabeth Olsen didn't even know about the ending until she saw the movie. It's like, how do you I get like not wanting to watch the original to not want to like imitate what the original actors did, but like to not know what that was. It's
I don't know, because like, you know, scripts are scripts, right? Like, I'm assuming your management or someone read the whole script. Like, I get like a character not knowing certain things, like you know, especially like television. Like television, if you don't see a whole script, so we don't ruin, you know, season finales and stuff like that. I get that, but like a movie, you didn't know what happened. Like that almost doesn't pass the smell test to me. She was fine in the movie.
Everybody's
fine, you know, like. Samuel Jackson, just, you know, another Samuel Jackson performance. Like, that's never terrible, but like, it just never elevates to a level that it needs to. The original film is unsettling, but again, I'll use this word one more time. It's unsettling, but it's compelling. This remake is unsettling and kind of boring.
Yeah, it's pretty boring.
You know,
and it's shorter too. But it's more boring.
It's much more boring.
It's so weird. It's just like, again, just Josh Brolin's such an asshole. It's so hard to really want to follow him on this journey. And he, like I said, he doesn't have a redeemable turn. So he's just kind of the same guy. I mean, he stops alcohol, but it's not enough.
Yeah.
All right, so I mean, I think we said enough. Honestly, I feel like people who were watching this could have figured it out because we had nothing but bad things to say about the remake the whole time.
You know, when usually, like, there's usually like a back and forth. Like, I'm thinking of like The Witches, for instance. Like, we're like, they'll find a thing to cling on to. It's like, I really like this. Where this movie probably should have been able to get it done was like the action.
Right.
You know, it's like, all right, you fucked with the story, but damn, that was cool.
I mean, the first fight scene with him fighting the football guys was definitely interesting.
It was.
But it was too early.
It was too early. Too inconsequential.
And yeah, especially because they were just trying to protect a woman. You know? They shouldn't have gotten beaten that bad, those guys.
Like, in the original film, it's like street toughs that like are messing with him. And this is just like, hey dude, what are you doing? Leave that woman alone. And he just batters these guys in front of women. It's just like, Jesus.
Again, just making him more of an asshole.
Yeah, you're a bad guy.
He's just a terrible guy.
Yeah.
So.
Oh well.
Well, let us know what you guys thought. Did you agree with us? Did you disagree with us? Did we miss anything? Let us know in the comments. Reggie, it is time to decide our next episode.
It is.
We have been thinking about this.
We have.
And we're going to change directions a little bit. And we're going to do a little bit of horror for you guys. So our next episode is going to be on Poltergeist.
Hey.
Yeah.
Poltergeist, a little horror film.
Yeah.
Man.
So that'll be good. That'll be good to help me sleep in my new house.
Yeah.
About a haunted house.
Yes. And the audience knows I'm a huge horror
Yeah.
fan. It's my favorite genre. So cool, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Poltergeist. It'll be some fun stuff. All right. Well, I'm Dan Bulick. You can, if you're on YouTube, definitely, let us know what you think in the comments. If you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star or a good review to help us grow the channel.
Absolutely. I'm Reggie Parker. You can follow us on Instagram at Retro vs. Remake. Like Dan mentioned, follow us on iTunes, Spotify. If you're watching this, you're watching on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Really appreciate you guys. Really appreciate you guys' support. I've been reading a lot of the comments on YouTube. I've been having fun replying to people. So yeah, keep them coming.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Retro vs. Remake. The hallway fight edition. Ooh, such a good fight. Such a good fight.